You've been lied to about Marilyn Monroe, and in today's video, I will be revealing the truth others won't tell you. We all think we know Marilyn Monroe, the naive blonde, the tragic star, the ultimate sex symbol, but what if I told you everything you know about Marilyn Monroe is a carefully crafted illusion? This wasn't just a woman who got lucky in Hollywood. This was a genius who built herself from the ground up, only to be trapped inside the very persona she created. My name is Michelle, and in this video, I'm unraveling the truth behind the myth of Marilyn Monroe, from the businesswoman, the artist, and the woman Hollywood never wanted you to see. I've spent hours digging through interviews, biographies, even film footage to understand the character she created and the real woman underneath it all. By the end of today's video, I promise you'll never see Marilyn the same way again. Without further ado, let's begin. I'd like to begin Marilyn Monroe's story with a significant moment in time. May 6th, 1957. On May 6th, 1957, Marilyn arrived at photographer Richard Avedon's studio in New York City for a promotional photo shoot for her latest film, The Prince and the Showgirl. At this point in her career, she had every reason to be proud. She was at the peak of her fame and had just achieved something groundbreaking. Defying the ruthless studio heads at 20th Century Fox, she had demanded and ultimately secured unprecedented control over her career. By founding her own production company, she had taken bold steps towards artistic freedom, something she had long yearned for. The first part of the session was routine for Marilyn. She had done this countless times before, effortlessly slipping into her famous persona, dazzling the camera with the charisma and energy the world had come to expect. But then, something changed. Photographer Richard Avedon recalled, eventually her energy subsided, and she withdrew quietly in a chair in the corner, virtually expressionless. It was in this moment, stripped of performance, that Avedon claimed to have captured one of the most revealing photographs of Marilyn. Through his lens, Marilyn was no longer the radiant star, but a woman stripped of illusion. As Philip Prodger describes in his article titled When Marilyn Monroe Met Richard Avedon, Avedon's portrait highlights the contradiction between the actress's public appearance and her private self. The real Monroe is clearly stronger, deeper, and more complex than her persona, yet her emotional state is hard to read. Is she simply tired, worn down, or stressed? Is she lost in thought or trapped in some dark existential labyrinth? Avedon himself later reflected that there was no such thing as Marilyn Monroe. Marilyn Monroe was an invention of hers, a genius invention that she created, like an author creates a character. This moment perfectly illustrates the central truth of her life. Marilyn Monroe was just a character she created to captivate the masses. It wasn't really her. The woman behind the legend and the allure of Marilyn Monroe was much more complicated than people allowed her to be. Born on June 1st, 1926, Marilyn Monroe's early life was marked by hardship and instability. Raised in foster homes and enduring periods of neglect and abuse, she later reflected, "I knew I belonged to the public and to the world, not because I was talented or even beautiful, but because I never belonged to anything or anyone else." Her difficult upbringing shaped a deep yearning for stability and purpose. At just 16, she married James Dougherty, a practical decision to avoid returning to foster care. But the marriage dissolved as her ambitions grew, and her journey toward reinvention began during World War II. While working in a factory, she was discovered by photographer David Conover, who was struck by her photogenic quality. Conover later remarked, She had something special. This moment marked the start of Norma Jeane's modeling career, which soon blossomed under the guidance of the Blue Book Model Agency. Encouraged to lighten her hair and refine her look to fit into the industry's ideal, Norma Jeane began transforming her image. By 1945, she was a successful pinup model, appearing on the covers of 33 magazines and captivating audiences with her unique charisma. However, her sights were set higher: Hollywood. Norma Jeane's modeling success eventually caught the attention of 20th Century Fox casting director Ben Leon. During her screen test, cinematographer Leon Shamroy famously described her as sex on a piece of film. Leon suggested the name Marilyn after Broadway star Marilyn Miller, and Norma Jeane added Monroe from her mother's maiden name. The name wasn't just a rebranding, it was the birth of a persona. See, Marilyn Monroe was smart. As a young girl, she watched Lana Turner and Jean Harlow on the big screen, and she understood the power of the trope. While the studio initially envisioned her as just another sexualized blonde figure, Marilyn worked alongside them to shape and elevate her persona into something uniquely her own. Monroe saw her transformation not just as a collaboration, but an opportunity to craft a character that was both magnetic and transcendent, one that would resonate far beyond her initial roles. Her early roles may have been small, but Marilyn wasn't content with just being a starlet. From the start, she was building something far greater, a character so magnetic and iconic that it would define an era and captivate the world for generations. As Marilyn Monroe's persona took shape, her rise to fame became inevitable. Through her careful transformation and relentless effort, she had constructed the perfect blonde bombshell, a character who exuded charm, sensuality, and a playful, carefree nature. While this persona brought her immense fame, it also tethered her to an identity that often obscured her deeper ambitions. Monroe's climb to stardom was marked by a string of films in the early 1950s that solidified her signature persona. Niagara, made in 1953, was her first lead role, casting her as a seductive femme fatale, while comedic hits like Gentlemen Prefer Blondes and How to Marry a Millionaire, made in the same year, saw her embrace an archetype of the beautiful, naive blonde she became synonymous with. Despite the one-dimensional nature of these roles, Marilyn's talent elevated them beyond mere caricature. Her comedic timing, charisma, and the ability to command the screen made her stand out. Few actresses could deliver lines like "diamonds are a girl's best friend" with such wit, charm, and underlying intelligence. Director Billy Wilder once said of her, "The greatest thing about Monroe is not her chest. It is her ear. She is a master of delivery. She can read comedy better than anyone in the world." While her performances captivated audiences, events outside the movie theater unintentionally cemented her status as the ultimate sex symbol. Take the filming of The 7-Year Itch, made in 1955. This provided one of the most iconic moments of Marilyn's career and one that further entrenched her persona in the public eye. The scene of Marilyn's white dress blowing upward over the subway gate caused a frenzy during filming. Paparazzi swarmed the set, and crowds of onlookers gathered to watch Monroe perform the moment over and over. The scene played perfectly into her established image, reducing her to the playful, sensual object of desire that the public and the studio system expected her to be. For many, the line between Marilyn Monroe the character and Monroe the person blurred further. Around the same time, two major events reinforced this image. First, in 1952, nude photos Marilyn had taken years earlier resurfaced. In 1949, when she was a struggling actress, she posed nude for photographer Tom Kelly under the fake name Mona Monroe, in exchange for $50. The images were originally used for calendars and remained relatively obscure until her rise to fame. When the photos re-emerged in 1952, some feared they would damage her career. But Monroe met the controversy head-on, stating, "I was broke and I needed money. Why deny it?" Her candid honesty won over the public and only added to her allure. Then, in 1953, Hugh Hefner republished those same images in the first issue of Playboy, without Marilyn's consent and without paying her a cent. Unlike when the photos initially resurfaced, this time she had no control over how they were used. In her unfinished autobiography, she later reflected on this exploitation, writing, "I never even received a thank you from all those who made millions off a nude Marilyn photograph. I even had to buy a copy of the magazine to see myself in it." Despite this injustice, Playboy's success further cemented her status as the ultimate pinup girl, forever linking her to the burgeoning sexual revolution. These moments played a key role in reducing her, in the public's eye, to a one-dimensional sex symbol. Despite the complexity and intelligence she poured into creating and shaping her own image. Yet, while the public was fixated on her as a sex symbol, people failed to realize that she was so much more. She was an artist who had talent unlike any other actress in the industry. The persona of Marilyn Monroe may have been crafted by the studio system, but it was Marilyn herself who perfected it. She worked tirelessly to build the character of Marilyn Monroe, from her platinum blonde hair to her breathy voice, and she understood the nuances that made her creation stand out. While other actresses portrayed similar naive blonde archetypes, Marilyn's charisma, musicality, and stage presence made her performances unforgettable. Though some of the more operatic sections of her films were dubbed, the majority of her singing was entirely her own, showcasing a sultry yet playful vocal style that became instantly recognizable. Beyond singing, she also proved herself to be a capable dancer, effortlessly holding her own alongside seasoned performers. Her ability to pair her physical beauty with charm and musical talent created a magnetic quality that no other actress could replicate. Marilyn's friend, Amy Green, recalled a moment that demonstrated this ability, stating, "I'll never forget the day Marilyn and I were walking around New York City. She turns to me and says, 'Do you want to see me become her?' I didn't know what she meant, but I just said yes, and then I saw it. I didn't know how to explain what she did because it was so very subtle, but she turned something on within herself that was almost like magic. And suddenly, cars were slowing and people were turning their heads and stopping to stare. They were recognizing that this was Marilyn Monroe, as if she pulled off a mask or something, even though seconds ago, nobody noticed her. I had never seen anything like it before." Off-screen, Marilyn was just as sharp. She knew exactly when to turn on the Marilyn Monroe persona, using it to draw attention and maintain her star power. Her quick wit in interviews added to her mystique. When asked what she wore to bed, she famously replied, "Just a few drops of Chanel No. 5. When questioned about the nude photos, she joked, "It's not true I had nothing on. I had the radio on." Although her carefully constructed image brought her fame and success, it also left her yearning for more. "A sex symbol becomes a thing," she once said. "I just hate to be a thing." Monroe's desire to break free from the dumb blonde archetype and prove herself as a serious actress clashed with the studio's vision for her career. She began to realize that the very persona she had worked so hard to craft was now confining her, making it difficult for anyone, fans, directors, or executives, to see her true depth and talent. By the mid-1950s, Marilyn Monroe had enough. She felt trapped in repetitive, one-dimensional roles that capitalized on her looks while ignoring her talent. Compounding this frustration was her unfair treatment by the studios, who paid her significantly less than her male co-stars and even other actresses with less star power. As Marilyn explained, "I didn't mind playing the part of Marilyn Monroe, but I wanted to prove I was more than just a stereotype." Determined to take control of her career and artistic growth, Marilyn made a shocking move in 1954. She left Hollywood and relocated to New York City. At a time when studios still tightly controlled their stars, dictating their contracts, appearances, and even personal lives, her decision to challenge the system was nearly unprecedented. Once in New York, she began an intense period of self-reflection and growth. She joined the prestigious Actors Studio, studying under Lee Strasberg to refine her craft. Strasberg recognized her untapped potential, later remarking she had a talent that was not recognized because she was playing a role off-screen as well as on. Marilyn took an even bolder step in 1955, founding Marilyn Monroe Productions, a groundbreaking move for a female star. At the time, it was virtually unheard of for an actress to take such control over her career. Only Mary Pickford had done so before her, and that had been over 30 years earlier. This decision allowed her to negotiate a new contract with 20th Century Fox, giving her higher pay and unprecedented creative control over her projects. As Entertainment Weekly noted, this was a major blow to the already declining studio system in the 1950s. It gave her a nearly unmatched power, allowing a star of her stature to control her own career rather than being at the mercy of a capricious studio and its mogul. The media hailed her triumph as historic. Time magazine described her as a shrewd businesswoman, while Los Angeles Mirror called it one of the greatest single triumphs ever won by an actress. The Morning Telegraph declared, "The bitter battle is over. Marilyn Monroe, a 5'5.5" blonde weighing 118 alluringly distributed pounds, has brought 20th Century Fox to its knees." This newfound autonomy wasn't just a personal victory, it was a seismic shift in Hollywood's power dynamics, proving that stars could successfully challenge the studios. Through her production company, Marilyn secured roles that showcased her range as an actress. In Bus Stop, made in 1956, she played Cherie, a struggling singer whose vulnerability and charm revealed a new depth to her abilities. Critics praised her heartfelt performance, with many noting her significant growth as an actress. She followed this with The Prince and the Showgirl, a project she co-produced with Laurence Olivier in 1957. Though the production was fraught with tension, Marilyn's comedic timing and magnetic screen presence captivated audiences. Despite these artistic successes, Marilyn Monroe Productions faced significant challenges. The company produced only 2 films before internal conflicts and external pressures led to its dissolution. Marilyn's partnership with photographer Milton Green, who co-founded the company, became strained, contributing to the company's decline. Additionally, the financial and logistical difficulties of independent production in a studio-dominated industry proved overwhelming. Consequently, Marilyn Monroe Productions was short-lived, highlighting the formidable obstacles she faced in seeking creative autonomy within Hollywood's rigid system. While these roles showcased her talent, Marilyn still faced the ongoing challenge of separating herself from the persona she had created. The public, conditioned to see her as the carefree, naive woman, struggled to reconcile this image with her ambitions as a serious actress. Studio executives, too, were reluctant to fully embracing her evolution, fearing it might alienate the fans who adored Marilyn Monroe as they knew her. Marilyn's decision to take control of her career wasn't just a testament to her ambition, but a revolutionary act of defiance. In an era when stars were expected to remain silent and complacent, she dared to demand autonomy, proving she was more than just a character or a commodity. By challenging the studio system and reshaping her career, Marilyn Monroe became not only a star but a trailblazer, paving the way for future generations of actresses and actors alike to claim their own power. Marilyn's later films reflected both her artistic ambition and the difficulties she faced in Hollywood. The Misfits, made in 1961, was written by her then-husband Arthur Miller in response to her desire for a more serious acting challenge. In the film, she played Rosalind, a sensitive woman seeking a new beginning, a role that carried striking parallels to Marilyn's own life. One scene in The Misfits subtly reflects on Marilyn's own struggles with identity. As her character excitedly shows off a newly decorated home, a closet door is left open, revealing real photographs of Marilyn. The man she is with becomes memorized by these images, unable to look away. Meanwhile, Marilyn's character continually tries to divert his attention. This moment serves as a powerful metaphor for Marilyn's real-life battle to escape the image the world had imposed on her. While the movie shared themes with many of her past characters, it showcased her dramatic strength in a way no other film had before. Though The Misfits was a commercial failure at the time, critics praised the performances and screenplay, and over the years, its reputation has grown. Today, it is considered a masterpiece and one of the best films of the 1960s. Tragically, it would be the last film Marilyn ever completed before her death in 1962. Her final project, Something's Gotta Give, remained unfinished. This film marked a return to the lighthearted, glamorous roles she had sought to move away from. Plagued by production troubles, including Marilyn's frequent absences due to illness and tension with studio executives. So I'm gonna ask you this. Why is Marilyn Monroe solely remembered as either a tragic figure or a brainless beauty? Why do we constantly overlook her role as a trailblazer who challenged the Hollywood system and also who created one of the most iconic characters in cinema history? Yes, Marilyn experienced trauma. She suffered neglect as a child and endured several failed marriages, and died tragically at a young age. But she was much more than just a tragic figure. There is a fixation on the hardships of her life, while her accomplishments are often overshadowed. Perhaps it makes for a more sensationalized story to focus only on the horrific episodes she endured, rather than acknowledging her resilience, ambition, and intelligence. The 2022 film Blonde exemplifies this oversimplification. Based on Joyce Carol Oates' novel, the movie presents a fictionalized and bleak portrayal of Marilyn's life, emphasizing her suffering and victimization. Critics have noted that the film turns Monroe into an avatar of suffering, brought low by a miserable childhood, a father she never knew, and an industry full of men who abused and exploited her. This oversimplification of Marilyn's life and legacy is not unique. Elizabeth Winder, author of Marilyn in Manhattan, Her Year of Joy, explains, "The culture that we live in reduces women to these caricatures. With Marilyn, that's so easy to do because of her damage and the roles that she played, allowing people to make money off of a bimbo image. It's so much easier to just go along with that cliche than it is to do the work of understanding who she really was." Similarly, other women, such as Billie Holiday, have had their legacies boiled down to tragedy or stereotypes, overlooking the complexities of their lives and the barriers they overcame. The persistence of Marilyn's dumb blonde image is particularly frustrating when contrasted with the realities of her life. As Winder points out, today she's remembered far more as a girl standing over a subway gate with her skirt billowing than she is as a trailblazer. She's been frozen in time. This narrow view ignores her intellectual curiosity, her love for literature, and her drive to be recognized for more than her beauty. Marilyn Monroe was an avid reader who owned a personal library of over 400 books, ranging from philosophy to poetry. She worked tirelessly to perfect her craft, going to great lengths to be taken seriously as an actress and a creator. Marilyn Monroe was a shrewd businesswoman. She saw a crack in the system and turned it into an opportunity. She forced the powerful executives at Fox Studios to comply with her. Nobody else was doing this at the time, especially not a woman. Yet Marilyn's status as a powerful businesswoman is hardly noted or capitalized on in any of her biographies. Instead, she is often remembered as a tragic beauty, a figure of vulnerability and desire, rather than as a groundbreaking artist and entrepreneur. This unwillingness to embrace nuance speaks to a broader issue in how women's legacies are framed. As Winder explains, people are so resistant to taking another look at her. That's because even today, men and women have such a difficult time reconciling all the different sides of what a woman can be, especially one like Marilyn, who had extreme vulnerability. For some reason, it's hard for people to say, oh, but she also did this and this and this, which was incredible. They're all mutually exclusive. Marilyn Monroe's story is one of ambition, reinvention, and resilience. She was more than just the ditzy blonde that Hollywood wanted her to be. While her legacy is often oversimplified, Marilyn's life reminds us of the complexities behind her image and the strength it takes to challenge expectations. Her impact on Hollywood and pop culture endures, proving that she was not just a star of her time, but a legend who continues to captivate and inspire. Marilyn Monroe was more than a myth. She was a pioneer who left an enduring legacy. Let me know in the comments down below of what you thought. If you've enjoyed this video, please consider giving it a thumbs up and be sure to subscribe for more nostalgic adventures ahead.